I'm staring at the credit card statement on my kitchen counter, and my hands won't stop shaking. $324,000. That's what Michael makes annually. I know because I helped him fill out the mortgage application 6 months ago. 6 months. That's how long this has been happening, and I had no idea until Jennifer from book club mentioned she'd seen him at the grocery store last Tuesday, and he'd told her we were cutting back on spending for a bit. Cutting back. I nearly spit out my coffee right there in Whole Foods. Michael came home at 6:47 p.m. like he always does, loosening his tie as he walked through the door. His consulting job pays well, really well. 6 figures, steady, the kind of money that lets you breathe easy in the suburbs. He kissed me on the cheek, asked what was for dinner, and I just stood there holding that Amex statement like it was a loaded gun. "Why did Jennifer mention you were at the store last week?" I asked, keeping my voice level. He froze for exactly 2 seconds. "What? Oh, I grabbed some coffee beans. Why?" "She said you told her we're cutting back on spending." His jaw tightened. "That's just—" "I was making conversation, babe. You know how people are." But that's not what bothered me most. What bothered me was that for the first time in our 7-year marriage, I felt that little cold finger touch the back of my neck. The one that says, something's wrong. Let me back up. Let me tell you about the before time, when everything made sense and Michael was just my husband. The good one, the one everyone envied. We met at Northwestern, both business majors, both hungry. Michael was the type who already had his 5-year plan laminated in his desk drawer. I was more of a dreamer, but he grounded me. We graduated, moved to Chicago, then to Oak Brook Terrace when his firm relocated him. That's when life became picture perfect. A 4-bedroom colonial with white shutters, a 2-car garage, a deck that overlooks the neighbor's pool but is way nicer than theirs. Michael would joke that he was punching up in the world, and I believed him. Our kitchen is beautiful, marble countertops, stainless steel everything, the kind of kitchen you see on HGTV. I spend a lot of time there because I work from home, freelance marketing consulting, which pays fine but nowhere near what Michael makes. We've always been okay with that arrangement. He brought in the big money. I had flexibility with our life. When my mom started having health issues 3 years ago, I could drop everything to help her. Michael said that was the whole point of his income, to buy us options. The house is filled with things we picked out together, a $2,800 sectional that took us 3 weekends to choose, framed photos from our anniversary trip to Turks and Caicos last year, a wedding picture from 2016 where we both look impossibly young and happy. I'd catch him sometimes just looking at that photo, and he'd smile at me like he still couldn't believe his luck. My mom lived with us for about 18 months during her cancer treatment. Michael was incredible, drove her to appointments, sat in the waiting room reading magazines, brought her soup when she couldn't eat anything else. My sister Jessica called him the son every mother wishes for. Mom recovered. We all celebrated. Life went back to normal, which meant Michael working long hours, me managing the house and my clients, Tuesday nights with my book club, his golf league on Saturdays. Everything was exactly how we'd planned it. But there were small things. Not red flags exactly, more like the kind of thing you notice and then forget, because the explanation is so reasonable. He'd been staying late at the office more often, especially Thursdays. Big client presentation, he'd say, or quarterly reviews. He'd started going to the gym at 5:30 a.m. before work instead of at lunch, so I'd wake up to him already gone and back by the time I made coffee. His phone got a password. He said it was for work security, some new corporate policy. Fine. Sensible. And the groceries. God, the groceries. About 2 months ago, I asked him to pick up some things on his way home. Chicken, vegetables, the usual. He said he couldn't, he had a client dinner. The next day, I needed him to grab milk and eggs. Can't, stuck in traffic, leaving from the city. The week after that, same thing. Eventually, I just stopped asking. It became my job again, the way it used to be. I didn't mind. I was already going to the store. I'd just add his stuff to the list. But then I started noticing the credit card alerts. Small ones, just a few dollars here and there. A charge from a Whole Foods in the Loop, downtown Chicago, not near his office. A Trader Joe's in Lakeview. A Jewel Osco on the North Shore. Weird combinations: expensive cheeses, fancy olive oils, grass-fed beef. Things Michael doesn't even particularly like. Things he never asked me to buy. I didn't say anything. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe he was treating himself, or maybe these were work meals that weren't being expensed properly. Maybe he was planning a surprise date night and didn't want me to know. That was the lie I told myself. Then came that credit card statement. Not a small charge, a full accounting. And when I looked closer, really closer, I realized these weren't random purchases. They were patterns. Every Tuesday and Thursday, same stores, roughly the same times. 14 charges over 6 weeks. $2,312 spent on groceries that never made it to my house. I sat down on the kitchen floor and just breathed for a while, trying to make sense of it. Michael came home at 6:47 p.m., and I held that statement in my hand, and something inside me shifted. Not anger yet, confusion. The feeling of standing in a room that's familiar and suddenly realizing you don't know where the exits are. That's when he asked, "What was for dinner?" And I asked about Jennifer. And he looked at me in that way that made me understand, with absolute clarity, that my life was about to become something very different from what I thought it was. "We need to talk," I said, and watched his face go white. "We need to talk," I said, and watched his face go white. He sat down slowly on the bar stool, still in his suit jacket, tie still knotted tight. For a moment, he just stared at the marble countertop like it might tell him what to say. "I can explain," he started. "Don't," I held up the statement. "Not yet. I want you to explain to me why you've spent $2,300 on groceries that never made it into this house. Groceries that appear on your credit card every Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork, for the last 6 weeks. I want you to explain why you lied to Jennifer from my book club about us cutting back on spending. And I want you to explain why you haven't bought a single grocery item here, not one, in 2 months. His jaw clenched. "Ashley, you're looking at this all wrong." "Then help me look at it right." He stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. Outside, the suburban street was quiet. A few houses had their lights on. The Hendersons' place across the street was dark. Everything looked normal from the outside. "There's someone else," he said finally. Not a question, not even really a confession, just a statement of fact, the way you'd say, "It's raining," if it were raining. The kitchen tilted. I gripped the edge of the counter. "Her name is Linda. She lives in Lakeview. We've been seeing each other for about 8 months. 8 months, not 6 weeks. 8 months. That meant this had been happening before my book club, before Jennifer saw him at the store, before all of it. 8 months of lying every single day, of coming home and kissing me on the cheek, of sleeping in our bed together, of asking what was for dinner. "Does she live alone?" I heard myself ask. He turned around. "What? Does she live alone, or is there a family there?" His silence told me everything. Oh my God. I sat down at the kitchen table. "Michael, is there a child?" It's complicated." "Is there a child?" "A daughter. She's 4. 4 years old. That meant she was born while we were married, while I was helping my mother through chemotherapy, while Michael was telling me he loved me and making plans for our future. While we were picking out that sectional, choosing colors for the guest bedroom, talking about maybe starting our own family in another year or 2. I couldn't speak. I literally could not form words. "I met Linda at a conference in Denver," he said, still standing by the window, still not looking at me. "It was supposed to be nothing, one night, but then she got pregnant and I couldn't just walk away. She needed help. The daughter needed—" "You have a child that isn't mine," I said. The words came out flat, hollow. "You have been feeding another man's family. No, wait. You've been feeding your family, your other family, while I'm here buying groceries with my freelance money because apparently the man who makes $300,000 a year is too busy supporting his second household to contribute to this one. That's not fair." "Not fair," I laughed. Actually laughed. It sounded insane. "Michael, you've been lying to me every single day for 8 months. You have a 4-year-old daughter. Not fair is the understatement of the decade." He finally looked at me. I was going to tell you. I was going to figure out the right time, and then... Then what? You were going to keep lying? How long, Michael? Were you planning to tell me when Linda got tired of sharing you? When your daughter asked why Daddy wasn't around? When I found out from someone else at the grocery store? He had no answer. I stood up and walked past him, up the stairs to our bedroom. I locked the door and sat on the edge of the bed, our bed, the one with the $600 sheets, and called my sister Jessica. She answered on the third ring. "Hey, what's up?" "I need you to come over right now," I said, "and I need you to bring your phone so you can record something." "What?" "Ashley, it's almost 9. Jessica, please, just come." 40 minutes later, my sister was in our living room, and Michael was sitting across from me with a lawyer on speakerphone. That's where it gets real. I'd called my divorce attorney. Yes, I already had one. Turns out when you've been married to someone for 7 years, you learn to plan ahead. And she'd told me to get everything in writing. So when Jessica arrived and Michael tried to minimize what he'd done, tried to make it sound like some romantic complication instead of a calculated, months-long deception, I had her record him admitting to the affair, the child, and the financial support he'd been secretly providing. "I want to be fair," he kept saying. "I want to work this out." "You want to work it out now," I said, "after 8 months of lying, after creating a child you've been hiding from your wife, after spending money on another family while I was grocery shopping with coupons." The attorney on the phone, a woman named Karen who specialized in high-asset divorces, told me to ask him one specific question. "Has Linda ever been to this house?" He didn't answer. "Michael, answer the question. Has Linda or your daughter ever been inside this house?" "No," he said quietly. "Have you ever taken time off work to spend with your daughter?" "Yes." "How many days?" "I don't know, 30? 40? 40 days. 40 days off work that he'd probably told me were client meetings or conferences or emergencies. 40 days with a child that wasn't mine, in a life that wasn't this one. Karen told me to get everything documented, bank statements, credit card records, the whole thing. She said the affair alone wouldn't matter much in Illinois. It's a no-fault state. But the hidden child and the financial deception would absolutely matter when it came to asset division and spousal support. She said it was actually lucky, in a horrible way, that he'd been so stupid about the paper trail. The next morning, I woke up in our guest bedroom. I couldn't sleep in the other bed, and called my parents. Then I called Jessica back. Then I called Jennifer from book club and asked her to come over. When Jennifer arrived, I told her everything, not gossip, just facts, and I asked her if she'd be willing to testify to what Michael had told her about cutting back on spending. She didn't hesitate. "Absolutely," she said, sitting at my kitchen table with a coffee I'd made her. That was weird, honestly. Who says that? I'm happy to tell anyone he's a lying sack of shit. I almost smiled. The divorce took 11 months. 11 months of discovery, depositions, Karen asking questions designed to make Michael's infidelity and hidden family look as bad as possible to a judge. It wasn't pretty. At one point, Michael tried to claim that Linda had lied about the child's paternity, that he wasn't actually the father. Karen hired a private investigator who found hospital records, the DNA test Michael had done privately, everything. In the end, the judge ordered him to pay me $240,000 in the divorce settlement. $240,000. Not as punishment. Illinois doesn't award punitive damages in divorce. But because the judge found that Michael had been deliberately hiding assets and income to avoid spousal support. He was ordered to pay me $5,000 a month in alimony for the next 5 years, and he was ordered to maintain full health insurance for me until the settlement was paid in full. He also had to pay Linda child support, officially, legally, with documentation. No more secret grocery store runs. The court established it at $2,000 a month for his daughter. Michael's consulting firm found out about the affair when his wife, me, became part of the legal discovery process. Apparently, they have a morality clause in their partnership agreement. He wasn't fired, but he was demoted. His income dropped to $180,000 a year. I kept the house. He had to buy me out of his 401k to cover part of the settlement. He moved into a rental apartment in the city, closer to Linda's place in Lakeview. Linda, by the way, didn't stay with him long after the divorce was finalized. Jessica saw him at Target about 6 months later with a different woman. Apparently, once you've proven you'll cheat on your wife for 8 months, some people take that as a warning sign. I sold the house 2 years after the divorce was final, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Every room had memories I didn't want anymore. The kitchen where he'd told me about Linda, the bedroom where I'd locked the door, the deck where we'd sat and planned a future that never existed. I used the money to pay off my student loans, invest in my marketing business, and buy a smaller place in a different suburb, a townhouse, nothing fancy, but it's mine, just mine. My mom is still in remission. Jessica got married last year. I went to book club last week and Jennifer was there, and we didn't even talk about Michael. We just talked about the book, and it was normal, and that felt like its own kind of victory. Sometimes I think about what Michael told me that night in the kitchen. I was going to tell you. The lie of it still stings. He wasn't going to tell me. He was going to keep lying until he got caught, or until I finally accepted that this was just how things were. He was going to keep me in a marriage that wasn't real, keep me grocery shopping on my dime while he fed another family, keep me in a life built on a foundation of deception. The worst part wasn't even the affair. It was the casual way he did it. The way he acted like this was something that just happened to him, something he couldn't control. Like Linda seduced him at a conference and he was powerless. Like the pregnancy was an accident he was forced to accommodate. Like lying to me for 8 months was just the price of doing business. But here's what I learned. The people who hurt you the deepest are the ones who make you question your own sanity first. They make you think you're paranoid for noticing the inconsistencies. They make you feel grateful when they finally admit to a lie, like you should be relieved they're telling you the truth now. They bank on your willingness to believe them, to trust them, to give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't. Not if your gut is screaming. Not if the math doesn't add up. Not if you have to lie to yourself to make sense of someone else's behavior. I trusted Michael, and he used that trust to build a second family in the shadows, while I was planning a future with him. He spent his money on another child, while I stretched mine to cover the grocery bills. He looked me in the eye and lied about client dinners and work emergencies, and why he couldn't pick up milk on his way home. The $324,000 he made wasn't the issue. The issue was what he chose to do with it, and what he chose to hide.